Good morning, everyone. My name is Alessandra Spaccadrosi. I am an Innovation Officer at EASA and I work in the Office of the Flight Standard Director. I'm here today to present to you the results of the two surveys on digitalization that the Flight Standard Directorate organized in June 2021. Before we move on to the results, I would like to thank the MAB and the SAB members for forwarding our invitation to participate to the surveys, to the national competent authorities and to the industry. A special thank you goes to all of you that took the time to respond to the survey. Your insights were very precious for us. Before we move on, let me give you some insights as for the reason why the Flight Standard Directorate decided to organize these two surveys in the first place. At EASA and in the Flight Standard Directorate, we've been asking ourselves for a while, how can EASA accompany the digital transformation of the European aviation sector? We believe that we can do that, first of all, understanding the challenges that we are all facing on our digitalization journey, catalyzing ideas and initiatives across all domains so that we all can benefit from each other's experience. We also believe that the experiences that we made should come all together so that EASA can provide a single access to experiences, viewpoints and decisions. Ideas and experience should then flow into guidance material on the interpretation of policies and regulation so that innovative solutions can really flourish. We believe as well that this guidance material should form the basis for requirements for future regulations that are really fit for the 21st century and that would help Europe be a world leader of innovation in aviation. So let's move on to the survey results now. As I said before, the Flight Standard Directorate launched the two surveys on digitalization in June 2021. Data collection started on the 1st of June and lasted for about 3 weeks. Additionally, we at EASA also met with a small number of national competent authorities to really understand the feedback that they had provided to us. At the end of the data collection period, we've received 17 responses from MAB member and observer states and from 28 representatives of most industry sectors. I will now take you through the results from the National Competent Authorities survey. During the collection period, we received 18 responses from 17 countries. As you can see, we have received responses from the north and from the south of Europe, as well from the east and the west of the continent. We then asked the national competent authorities to confirm which digitalization trends were important for them. Cybersecurity and data protection, as well as the digitalization of paper workflows, came first with 16 votes each. Next came mobile application with 13 votes, followed by connectivity and remote access with 12 votes. Big and smart data and advanced analytics and then cloud computing followed. We then asked the national competent authorities if the member states were supporting the digitalization effort of the industry. They all confirmed that that was the case. Support came in the form of financial grants or access to national systems, like for example, digital or electronic signatures. Support was also considered as access to the digital services of the member states, such as, for example, the submission of applications in electronic format. We then asked how far member states and national competent authorities were in their digitalization program. Except for one member state and one national competent authority where no digitalization program had started, both member states and national competent authorities were well embarked on their digitalization programs. What came as a pleasant surprise to us was to actually see that the digitalization programs of the national competent authorities were in many cases even more advanced than those of the member states. So if you have a look here, you can see that almost 60% of the national competent authorities had a well-established digitalization program, against just over 35% of the member states. These seemed quite clear to us. National competent authorities were in many cases the spearhead of digitalization for the member states. This seems to indicate that member states put a lot of value onto the digitalization of the aviation industry. We then asked national competent authorities if they had the means to grant approvals or documents in digital format or using electronic signatures. In 60% of the cases, national competent authorities had this capability. We then asked those national competent authorities that had the capability of digitally or electronic signing documents to specify which documents they were effectively digitally or electronically signing. It was interesting for us to see that documents that really are digitally or electronically signed, for the majority, are not certificates but other documents, such as authorities' decisions or letters, but not certificates. As you can see here, other received 8 votes, while the air operator certificate just received 4, for example. Other certificates were still issued on paper and were signed. We also asked the national competent authorities to specify which means of electronic identification they do use. They confirmed that in 4 cases, digital certificates and stamps are used, in 3 qualified electronic signatures, 1 for simple and electronic signatures, and 2 use other methods. It was interesting to see that 8 do not have any means of electronic identification. We also asked national competent authorities if they were aware of difficulties that the industry had faced with documents that they had digitally signed. Except for one case, it seems that all documents issued electronically by the industry were accepted. I will now move on to the results from the industry survey. We received 28 responses from industry representatives from 15 countries. As you can see, Europe is well represented. We also received responses from Brazil and from IATA in Canada. Many industry sectors responded to the survey. As you can see, we have received 14 responses from airlines and operators, 6 from maintenance organizations, 5 from air navigation service providers, 2 from aviation training organizations and manufacturers. Then we also had 1 group of aerodromes operators that responded, and also lessors. We then asked the industry if they felt that the member states were supporting them in the digitalization journey. Remember, we asked the same question also to the national competent authority. We asked them if the member states were supporting digitalization efforts of the industry, and in 100% of the cases, we were told that that was the case. The industry, however, does not seem to confirm this from the responses to the survey. As you can see here, just 50% of the respondents confirmed that the member states were supporting them, that they were supporting them with financial grants or with access to national platforms, for example. 50% of the respondents to the survey confirmed that they received no support from the member states. This support that they were missing was mainly guidance. The industry confirmed in the survey that they did not know in which way they would need to digitize, that they would not know if documents that they would sign electronically, for example, they would be accepted in other member states, or they did not know what system they would need to implement. We then asked the industry to tell us which digitalization trends were important for them. The digitalization of paper workflows came first with 26 answers. Cybersecurity and data protection and connectivity and remote access came next. Big smart data and advanced analytics then followed. Cloud computing and mobile application received 12 votes each. The industry segments, of course, differed in the importance that they attributed to the different digitalization trends. Operators and airlines consider as very important digitalization trends the digitalization of paper workflows and the use of mobile applications. Then they consider big smart data, cybersecurity, connectivity and remote access, and cloud computing. Maintenance organization told us that the most important digitalization trend for them is the digitalization of paper workflows, followed by big smart data and mobile applications. Connectivity and remote access and cybersecurity came last. Manufacturers told us that for them the top priority is cybersecurity and data protection, followed by the digitalization of paper workflows, big smart data and advanced analytics, cloud computing, and connectivity and remote access. And navigation service providers told us that the most important digitalization trend for them was cybersecurity and data protection, followed by digitalization of paper workflows, cloud computing, big smart data and advanced analytics, connectivity, and remote access. We then asked the industry how far they were in the digitalization program or strategy. The majority of the industry seems to have well-established concrete digitalization projects, some of which were already completed. 8 were starting with some programming, 2 were advanced, and just 1 had not started yet. We also asked the industry if they were using electronic signature. The industry confirmed that they were. In 5 cases, they were using advanced electronic signatures, and in 4 each simple electronic signatures, seals, or digital certificate. 3 were using qualified electronic signatures. 16 respondents, however, confirmed that they were using no electronic signatures at all. Now that I've shared with you the results of the 2 surveys, I would like to provide you as well with a list of ideas, experience, and also guidance that the respondents to the surveys have provided to us, so especially to some material that the respondents to the surveys told us that were very useful. So, the guidance material that is already out there includes the rules and also the information material on electronic signature that is provided by the European Union. EASA, our sister European Union agency on cybersecurity, also has got a wealth of information on its website. And here I've just mentioned a couple of documents that were found particularly useful by the respondents to the survey. The United Nations and EDIFACT also have got plenty of information available on electronic data interchange for administration, commerce, and transport. The National Competent Authority of Finland has developed a very interesting cybermeter that allows companies to assess the cybersecurity capabilities. ICAO as well has got plenty of information on public key directorate and also on the e-passport cryptography. Respondents to the survey also indicated that material that has been created by fellow national aviation authorities are also very useful. This includes the quick reference of user forms from Canada and 2 circulars from the FAA and from the New Zealand authority. Also, the ATASPEC 2005 were mentioned. I'm now going to take you through the conclusions that we could draw from the 2 surveys. The national competent authorities have confirmed that member states are moving away from paper. However, we could see that there still is a lot of difference in terms of adoption and advancement of digital technologies amongst them. We saw that all member states want to support the digitalization effort of their industry in terms of financial, rules interpretation, or access to national platforms. We saw from the responses to the surveys that national competent authorities seems to be at the forefront of the member states' digitalization efforts, and therefore that seems to indicate that the aviation industry is very important to the member states. All national competent authorities want to offer more digital services to the citizens and to the industry, and also they want to improve their processes, save time and optimize their resources. We saw that 10% of the national competent authorities have advanced digitalization programs. 60% of them have got well-established digitalization programs, but 30% of the national competent authorities have not started or are just starting in their digitalization journey. We saw that electronic signatures or digital certificates are used by 60% of the national competent authorities, who normally take advantage of state platforms that have been created in the previous decade. What we also saw quite clearly is that a supranational approach is missing, but is considered necessary. Why is that? That is because at the moment it is still unclear how other states will view the digital documents as certificate issued, not only just in Europe, but also and especially for those countries outside of Europe. We saw from the national aviation authorities that paper still provides assurance that documents will not be rejected. Respondents to the industry survey confirmed that the industry, as well as the national competent authorities, are moving away from paper. They confirmed that the industry has extensively adopted advancement in digital technologies. The industry, through digitalization, has improved its workflows, has saved time and optimized resources. However, the industry feels that the member states and national competent authorities are not supporting them well enough in the digitalization journey. Indeed, some sectors of the industry confirm that they got access to financial grants or to national platforms. However, the industry complained about the lack of guidance material on digitalization. We saw as well from the responses that we received that national competent authorities and industry have got the same digitalization rate. So, for example, we saw that 65% of the industry as well as of the NAAs already have well-established or advanced digitalization projects, while 30% are just starting. We saw that electronic signatures and digital certificates are used by 50% of the industry. We saw that the national competent authorities, 60% of the national competent authorities instead, as using electronic signatures. This indicates to us that the industry sometimes does not have access to national digital signatures platforms, or they also indicated that the cost of external service providers for digital signatures are too high. The industry, in a nutshell, is asking for a supranational, a global and cost-effective approach to digitalization. They would like to see the universal acceptance of digital aircraft records, crew records, licenses, attestations and training records as well. They would like the industry would like to see the recognition of foreign issued documentations like certificate, licenses, documents according to international and global standards. They also would like to see a list of acceptable signatures, standards and criteria. So, what global conclusions can we now draw? Well, we saw that the national competent authorities and the industry are digitizing very fast. We also could see three main common issues. The first one is on the digitalization of paper workflows. We will need to create joint guidance addressing the aviation needs. We'd also would need to decide on methods, on acceptable methods to demonstrate the authenticity of documents. Also, we will need to ensure the universal acceptance of electronic records, not just in Europe, but also worldwide. We would then need to concentrate on information security and data protection. And last but not least, we would also need to concentrate and to provide guidance on the use of mobile, electronic devices and applications. So, I have now reached the end of my presentation. I hope that you have enjoyed it. I hope that all of these data gave you a very good insight about the concrete demands that the industry and national competent authorities have told us that they have through the surveys. Should you have questions about my presentation, please post them on Slido. Here you have the link to the Slido event page where you can post your questions. Alternatively, you can also use this QR code with your mobile phone to directly land on the page where you can ask your questions. It has been a pleasure for me to provide you with this presentation. Thank you very much, and bye-bye for now.